Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for being patient as well. We've just had a couple of technical difficulties to start the webinar. I'm Jacinta Bonus, and I lead the consumer PR team here at Tourism and Events Queensland. So today's session is all about demystifying publicity. PR can sometimes sound a bit mysterious or like something only really big businesses with agencies can do. But at its heart, PR is all about good stories, the right timing, strong relationships, and understanding what media actually need and want. We'll talk through what consumer PR is, how tourism stories become media stories, what makes something genuinely newsworthy, and what you can do to both create opportunities and be prepared for an opportunity that might come your way. This is your PR playbook. I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of country, and we recognise their continuing connection to land, waters, culture, and community. We pay our respects to elders past and present, and we value and respect Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures in all that we do. So before we get into the meaty bits, just a little bit of housekeeping this morning. There is a chat on the right side of your screen for questions. We've got moderators checking these and we'll go through questions towards the end, as well as those who've pre-submitted questions. Thank you for doing so. We'll touch on those towards the end of the webinar. I encourage you to use interactions with the reaction button at the top of your screen. That's the smiley face button. There'll be opportunities throughout the webinar to engage. The session is recorded and will be emailed out after with the presentation and also with the Q&As as well. Also, just as a heads up, we'll be removing any AI bots from webinar, and your microphone and camera have already been switched off. But again, the session is being recorded for anyone who wants to review the content later. All right, so getting into today's game plan. So today is designed to focus on useful tips and insights around what PR might look like for your business. And we'll start with the basics. What is consumer PR and what's happening in the world of editorial media right now? Then we'll look at how TEQ approaches shaping tourism stories for media in the fast-paced, ever-shifting world of the media. From there, we'll get more into the practical side of things. So how to know what is a PR opportunity, what makes a story newsworthy, what journalists actually need and are looking for, and how to work with media and foster those strong relationships. And we'll also talk about working with RTOs, TEQ and TA when it comes to PR. By the end of today's webinar, I hope you feel more confident in spotting the stories within your own business and having the skills to really lean in and make the most of any opportunities that come your way. So let me start by just demystifying consumer PR very quickly. So consumer PR is all about shaping how everyday audiences understand and feel about a brand, place, or issue through trusted storytelling. It focuses on engaging earned media to create conversations that build credibility, awareness, inspiration, and an emotional connection to a topic, or in our case, a destination. PR works around the news cycle, which means we're at the mercy of what is happening in the world at that time. Even the strongest stories can be delayed or bumped by breaking news or other factors out of our control. So unlike advertising, where timing is guaranteed via paid placement, PR is guided by the news agenda and competing coverage. But when the coverage does run and you land that sweet spot of a great story at the right time, those benefits are invaluable due to the credibility and trust that earned media brings. Essentially, it's word of mouth on steroids. And that's the art of PR and being able to spot the right story and place it at the right time. And knowing what story to pursue and which angles to elevate to build that credibility is also really important when it comes to famils or familiarizations. Now, the distinction between trade and media famils is a little different. And with media famils, it's more about the storytelling than it is while also showcasing product at the same time. So a trade famil is usually to demonstrate an array of experiences and products to travel trade. So they're familiar with the experiences and stays so that then they can on-sell those holidays to their clients. whereas a media famil is more like a highlights reel designed to inspire story ideas, generate relevant conversations, and help journalists experience a destination or a product firsthand so they can share their experience with their readers as they are the trusted voice. So in a nutshell, PR is storytelling, telling stories about that people care about through the voices and channels that they trust at the right time. And there are three key fundamentals to remember when it comes to PR. The first one being relationships, knowing which journalist is best for a specific story or who has influence in a specific space. It's about knowing not just their beat, but also their personal interests and drivers. Do they love science? Do they hate cliches? Do they prefer to communicate over text and email? Or are they more likely to be at their computer before 10 a.m. or after 3 p.m.? If you know how your key journalists work and what gets them excited, then you've got yourself in a good spot to generate valuable media content. The next one is relevance. Why this story matters now. It's about connecting what you want to say to what audiences are already paying attention to or what they need to know. What's happening in the broader conversation in the world at the time, and what will genuinely add value rather than noise. A relevant story earns attention because it's timely, useful, and meaningful. The next one is readiness. Media work fast. If we're not ready with spokespeople, facts, vision, then someone else gets the spotlight. It's as much about the time to react and respond as it is being ready to pitch a story when the time is right. And how we shape our PR work is so closely tied to how the media operates in today's world. For anyone who tuned into the last TEQ Connect, we've heard how the media environment right now is complex, fast-moving, and fragmented. This also plays a part in how we approach earning editorial PR coverage. So in this day and age, media editorial teams are leaner, journalists are working across multiple platforms and beats, and stories are scrutinised by the public well beyond their original publication, particularly in this new online environment. Content travels quickly and context can be lost just as fast. And there's a somewhat higher margin for error when you're working at such a pace and with modern media channels, which puts a premium on accuracy, clarity, and those trusted voices. So what do media want in this fast-paced and ever-evolving world? They want an angle with a newsworthy hook that will capture the attention of audiences. This could be a new product or a new face or character with an interesting story. It could just be a new angle or topic or something unique and different that hasn't been seen before. Media need strong visuals, both stills and vision, as we need to consider how content is lifted and published across multiple mediums and channels, including online and socials. Media also are looking for experts who can explain things in terms that their audiences can understand and provide accuracy with personality. And that brings in that human voice, which could be you. Everything we do starts with the audience here at TEQ. We look first at the traveller as ultimately they are the ones we're looking to inspire and encourage to travel to Queensland. And if we're hitting the mark with what the audience wants, then generally that's also what the media will want to talk about. We need to understand what travellers are curious about, what they need to know to make their travel decisions, what are their drivers, what do they want to know before they go on holiday, and what will genuinely resonate with them right now. That audience-led lens shapes our story curation and our media conversations to ensure our work feels relevant, engaging, and credible, rather than too promotional or transactional. From there, we apply editorial insights and expertise. At TEQ, we're selective by design, curating stories that are strategic rather than chasing coverage for coverage's sake. Our focus is on choosing the right stories at the right moment that adds value, feels timely, and contributes to a bigger narrative about Queensland. We're also starting to investigate how earned media influences what is scraped by large language models like ChatGPT, as we know consumers are utilising these platforms to get inspiration and plan a holiday. The very basics of this is understanding that while traditional media channels like TV, radio, newspapers, magazines are still very valuable and relevant, there are new opportunities with online media which arguably now has some of the biggest reach. And with many broadcasters, newspapers, magazines having spent years building their online presence and cross-platform content models, this creates more opportunities for trusted editorial content to be discovered, shared, and surfaced through these search engines and emerging AI-powered platforms. Next, we look at where our stories come from. And a big part of being able to achieve positive and inspirational media outcomes for Queensland comes from working closely with industry and people like yourselves. We collaborate with RTOs, operators, guides, and on-the-ground experts because the strongest stories come from those who live these stories and destinations each and every day. That partnership ensures media stories are authentic, informed, and human, while also supporting industry to shine confidently and brightly when Queensland is in the spotlight. And finally, we're also really proactive in how we engage with media. This is the core of PR. We stay close to journalists, understand how they work, and support them with clear information, credible expertise, and clear timelines. That consistency builds trust. And that's why media turn to us time and time again with opportunities to feature Queensland in earned media. So now that we've explored how TEQ approaches consumer PR, let's look at how we determine what makes a good media story. And as I said, I think there were a few pre-submitted questions that came through on this, so we wanted to spend a little bit of time on it. So at TEQ, we put a story or a media opportunity through a bit of a filter and ask ourselves a few questions. And it's something you could ask yourself as well when you're sitting down to think, is what I have in front of me a PRable story? So does the story give a fresh angle or provide a new lens to how people see Queensland? Does it reveal something new, meaningful, unique, or extraordinary? Does it make people feel something? That could be curiosity, inspiration, or surprised in a good way. And does it reflect Queensland as a brand? So now we're going to look at the perfect play. What makes a good story and what are some steps that you can take when formulating your PR stories? So the good news is that many tourism operators already have great stories. It's often just about looking at them through a media lens and the eye of an editor and a journalist. So when we're looking at potential stories, we're usually looking for a few things. First, that new. That new could be a new product or experience. It could also be an interesting person behind the product that people are not yet familiar with, a new event or event news, or even a new major milestone that's worth celebrating. Next, you should think about what's the hook. So what makes people stop and take notice? It might be something unique, unexpected, or linked to a trend that people are already talking about. People also connect with people. Some of the strongest stories aren't just about a place or an experience. They're about the passionate people behind it and the stories that bring it to life. Operators should carefully consider who is the best spokesperson for a media opportunity. Sometimes it might be the founder if the opportunity is focused on how the business started, or it could be the hotel chef if the story is culinary focused. Timing is also really important. If your story connects to a season, an event, or a broader travel trend, it can become even more relevant and timely and increase the chance of pickup. And because tourism is such a visual industry, those strong images and video that I've spoken about makes a huge difference in helping media showcase your product. And nowadays, visuals don't have to be polished for media. Vertical iPhone footage is now very accepted by media. And most importantly, think about the visitor. Will this story make someone want to learn more about your product, book a trip, or add your experience to an itinerary? Human beings are nosy creatures, so it needs to be something that will capture people's attention and make them sit up and notice. A good thing to think about is put yourself in the shoes of an everyday Aussie traveller and ask yourself, if I saw this pop up as a news story, would I stop scrolling to read it? So when you create an opportunity for your business, when it comes to media and PR, or an opportunity is brought to you, how do you best capitalize on this exposure to bolster PR activity and foster future opportunities? The first one is roll out the welcome mat. This is particularly important for media for mills or if you're inviting media to experience your product. Media want to experience what consumers will experience plus some. A warm welcome, access to people to interview, any value adds, going the extra mile, and a little bit of behind the scenes insight can make all the difference when you're engaging with media. The next one is knowing your product and your story. You need to know the ins and outs and the practical side of your product to be able to sell it, of course, but you also need to be ready to talk about what makes your business interesting, different, or relevant to now. Journalists are often looking for the story behind the product. TEQ has a storytelling manual on the corporate website which industry can access. And while the manual is really geared towards storytelling in a guest experience sense, there are some useful takeaways within that manual that can also help inform how you shape storytelling for media as well. The next one is bring the human element. As we've talked about a little bit already in this webinar, people connect with people. Founders, guides, locals, and passionate team members often become the most memorable part of a story. Be ready to respond. Media opportunities move really quickly, and having those visuals, key information, and a spokesperson ready and an easy to access press kit can help you make the most of an opportunity. An easy way to do this is to set up a Dropbox with all of your key information and visual assets that you can easily provide to media. This can be images and video that you are happy for media to access. It can be those character profiles on people working within your business. It can be fact sheets, anything that you could present to media to help them tell that wider story about your product. And the last one, and arguably one of the most important, is to keep the conversation going and know your media contacts. So a media famil or an interview, for example, shouldn't be the end of a relationship. If you have contact with a journalist, make note of their contact details, stay connected, and look for opportunities to work again in the future. This is one of the key foundations of PR. It's relationships. Now, I know many of you can't pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for a media database, so that's why it's really important to maintain those connections after each opportunity. It's also important to do research on a journalist and publication prior to pitching or engaging with them to understand what they're interested in and the types of stories they cover. Sometimes you can't find their contact details. Sometimes you can find their contact details online, or usually on the contact page for a media outlet, they may have an editorial email contact. But remember, media get thousands of emails a day, so knowing what's going to stand out in their inbox based on their interests and what they cover is super important. So, being match ready and sharing your stories. As we've discussed, there are plenty of things that you can do within your business to create PR opportunities and build your own PR confidence. But publicity is also a team sport, and your RTO, TEQ, and Tourism Australia can all help share your stories and make sure they travel further when the right opportunity comes up. The key is making sure we know what's new, different, or interesting in your business, because the more we know, the easier it is for us to connect you with the right opportunities. So here's a few things that you can do to help. Give us a heads up as soon as possible and stay in touch. Let us know what you're seeing. Keep us in the loop. If something interesting is about to happen, shoot us an email or give us a call if you see something extraordinary. It could be the next big story. On the screen, if you can see it, is our contact details for our consumer PR inbox and our media inbox. If you have any updates or content to send through, please send it through to both email addresses. That inbox is accessed by our consumer PR team, and then the media inbox is also accessed by our wider marketing and editorial team as well. We use them as a bit of a news inbox, so anything that comes through, we see it and we assess and we either action or file away for future opportunities. Send through footage and key details of visuals. So as we know, we are visual beings, and that means media want visuals. So even if it's raw GoPro footage or iPhone footage, send it through to us when you send through your stories. The media can work with most kind of vision, and it might just be the thing that helps get a story over the line. Update your bios. If you have a spokesperson bio, please share it with us. Tell us who you are, what you know, what you love, where has your passion stemmed from, where you've come from, and how you've got to where you are now. This helps paint a picture of the people behind the product. Even better, if you have photos of yourself on the job, send those through to us too. Media love people-focused stories and interesting personalities. What makes a story stand out? So we know Queensland is full of great tourism businesses, so we need you to help us understand what makes yours stand out, whether that's a unique experience, something people can't get anywhere else, an interesting backstory, passionate people, or something that guests always talk about when they walk away from your experience. That's often where the strongest story angles come from. And finally, be ready to activate and be ready when opportunities knock. Media often work to tight deadlines, so being available to move quickly and respond to media, whether that's for a spokesperson or a fact sheet or checking content, that helps us move quickly when opportunities arise, and so the journalists stay engaged. I was going to show some examples of coverage, but I know we are heading over time, so I might just skip down to a couple of questions that has come through. We were also going to do a bit of an activity there, so we'll jump down to that section. So we've talked a lot about what makes a good story, how to work with media, and some practical takeaways to make the most of opportunities when they come your way. So before we wrap, I thought we'd take some time and put that thinking into action with a few real world scenarios that you might encounter. So what I'm going to do is read out a scenario and give you a few multiple choice answers that you can respond to, and using that smiley face emoji reaction button at the top of your screen, let us know which option you think is the most appropriate way to approach it with those emojis. So the first scenario, a media famil and you're a wildlife sanctuary business. A travel journalist from a major newspaper is visiting your wildlife sanctuary. So how should you host them? The first option is to ask them to purchase a ticket and explore the sanctuary independently using the visitor map. The next one is to introduce them to your wildlife carers, provide a behind the scenes encounter, and allow time for photos and interviews. And the last one is ask them to wait until the public keeper talk begins in 90 minutes. What does everyone think that one is? The answer for that one is B, which is the thumbs up. So why is it answer B? Giving exclusive access and knowledgeable spokespeople create stronger stories than simply replicating a standard visitor experience. That's about going the above and beyond and providing that little bit extra that we spoke about earlier. Okay, the next scenario is a media famil and you're a boutique accommodation. A travel magazine journalist is staying overnight at your luxury eco lodge. What should you prioritize? The options are text them an hour prior to arrival, advising you've left the key at reception and everything they need to know is in the brochure on the table in the room. Spend an hour and a half explaining every feature of the property and reading the brochure out to them word for word before they check in. Personally welcome them, point out the property's most unique features, recommend the best sunset location, highlight signature guest experiences, and then allow them time to enjoy the stay independently, but be available if they need anything. So let us know with reactions what one of those three options you think is the best answer. So the best answer for this one is the last one. Media appreciate context and storytelling, but they also need uninterrupted time to experience, photograph, and write about the property as well. And the final scenario is a media interview for a guided tour. So your magazine journalist is writing a feature on both your experience and the destination. They've requested an interview with one of your spokespeople. Once you've identified the best spokesperson for the opportunity, what's the best approach? So we've got a few options here. The first one with the love heart being share why you started the business, a bit about yourself and your background, what you love about the region, some of your favorite local gems, and how your tours help connect visitors to the destination. Follow up by sending them some images of yourself and your product. The next one with the thumbs up is focus on reciting your tour itinerary step by step from start to finish, and don't let them ask any questions outside of the logistics of the tour. And the last one with the clapping hands is email your brochure and website link and suggest the journalist uses those details to put into ChatGPT to create the article. What do you think is the right option there? So the answer for this one is the first one. Journalists are looking for stories, people, and personality. They can find out the factual information on your website, but what they can't find out is your personal journey, passion, or unique perspective. Sharing why you do what you do, what makes the region special, and the experiences that have shaped your business helps create a richer, more authentic story that readers will connect with. And if you don't have capacity or don't wish to do an interview, it is always better to decline upfront than provide an undercooked response. So before we go any further, just a reminder to add any questions to the Q&A on the side of your screen, as we'll answer a couple of questions before we finish up the webinar. Now, we've covered a lot in this webinar today, and we've really just scratched the surface of what consumer PR is and how it can deliver for our industry and our tourism destinations. But for those of you tuning in today, here are some key takeaways from today's content and things that you can action now. The first one being that press kit. Those bios, visuals, product information, pop them into a Dropbox ready to go, because media move fast. So if a media opportunity comes your way, it's always best to have those ready to go. Make the most of all opportunities. When an opportunity comes your way, roll out that welcome mat for media. Give them as much information as you can. Give them access to your best spokespeople. Make sure you have those visuals ready for them, and also foster those relationships ongoing following those opportunities. And that's what we've been saying throughout today. Stay connected. PR is all about relationships. If you have a journalist come to you for an interview or for a media famil, really work that relationship, because you never know when an opportunity is going to come up down the track that you can work on together again. And finally, keep TEQ in the loop. Let us know what's going on. We are always on the lookout for some amazing stories to tell in our earned media. So let us know what's going on in your business. We also pass that information on to Tourism Australia when it is relevant for international opportunities as well. And make sure you're also keeping your RTO in the loop, as well, as we have multiple touch points with RTOs throughout the year. All right, we might just answer some of the pre-submitted Q&As, and then we will send out following the webinar a bit of a one-pager with any questions that we didn't get to today, as just conscious that we are running over a little bit. So one of the questions that we have received before the webinar is, how can we connect with journalists outside our region, and where should we be sending our stories if we're trying to attract tourists to our venues? So if you have a story to share and don't have an existing media database, start by researching the publications you'd like to target and see if they have a contact listed online to submit stories to. I'd also recommend keeping your RTO in the loop and working with them to share region-specific stories to their networks. And of course, keeping us at TEQ in the loop as well, in case it's a story that has legs and aligns to our PR opportunities that we can incorporate into our ongoing pitching. The next question is, for smaller regional destinations that may not have a large marketing budget, what are some examples of the types of stories that are likely to gain media attention? So that can be anything from pitching for mills, etc. But it all starts with having a great story to tell, which we've spoken about today. And in the deck that comes around, there will be some examples of what media are attracted to. So keeping an eye out for them, or spending the time looking at what stories you have that may spark the media's interest, is the best way to start. Definitely make yourself familiar with the publications you're targeting. If you can see what stories they're covering and what they're interested in, that might spark some ideas for your business in terms of what coverage they're looking for and what might be easier to get across the line. The next question is, what is the best way to create a PR contact email list? Is email the best way to distribute your news to key contacts? Is a traditional one-page media release still the suggested format? So we've touched on obviously keeping media contacts warm in this webinar today. So anytime you have an opportunity to be in front of media, that could even be networking at local events as well. Be sure to get contact details of media and keep that relationship warm. There are media list platforms out there that come with a fee, so it also might be worth exploring looking into those if you're looking to amp up your PR efforts. When it comes to distributing news, we've shifted our approach slightly to reflect what media are looking for in terms of stories and opportunities. So we've actually scaled back wider press release distribution in terms of going out far and wide, as we're finding media are more and more looking for those tailored individual story opportunities. And we really only send out those broader releases if there's something super topical or timely that we have to share. An example of that is our annual What's New press release that focuses on a roundup of the new product across the state that year. And generally, media prefer to be pitched to via email unless you have a really strong existing relationship or an urgent story to pitch where you know you can pick up the phone to the journalist direct. The next question is, media always want to know what's new for earned coverage. How do you successfully get around this when you might not have anything traditionally new to share? Well, part of what makes news is new, but this doesn't always need to be new product. It can be a new angle or a new personality to pitch in. You just need to remember the stories that land best are the ones that have the most interesting and relevant hook, pitched in at the right time. You can get a pretty good idea of the sense of the stories media are looking for by reading and researching what's in the news cycle at the moment. So take a look at any publications that you might be interested in targeting and see what they're covering right now and whether there's anything within your business that is of a similar flavour that you might be able to lean into. And the next pre-submitted question is around international markets. So the question is, I understand that news released in English does not always resonate with audiences outside the English-speaking world. If you have any insights or recommendations on PR strategies for non-English speaking markets, what is your advice? I work mostly in our domestic PR space, and we have some brilliant in-market PR and marketing teams for TEQ that often lift content from head office that we're seeding out domestically. And what they do is translate that to the relevant market language. So the recommendation here is to translate any content you may wish to land in international markets to the relevant language of the market you are targeting. And while our international teams look after this translation, I do know there are translation platforms out there and services that you can access to do this as well. So thanks again, everyone, today for your time. Apologies again for the technical glitches that we've had today, but I do hope today's session has provided some helpful tips and insights into the current landscape when it comes to earned publicity, and maybe has sparked some thinking around how you might be able to begin elevating your business through publicity channels and activity. So thanks again for joining us, and I hope you have a great Monday ahead.